Something called random. And I know that you're probably like, what the heck did we get ourselves into by coming to church this morning? Like, of all things this dude's going to be talking about. I'm a random person, and the word random applies to me. I looked up the word random in the Merriam-Webster dictionary because we all go to them for like validation as far as what the word means, because for some reason we think that, I guess, that they know the way to interpret what a word means the best. And the word random comes out to mean without definite aim, direction, rule, or method. And what's shocking is what we're going to talk about is this first part. It says without definite aim, direction, or rule, or method. It's at random, basically, right? So if you guys would, turn in your Bibles to 2 Chronicles 18. That's what we're going to be focusing on today, 2 Chronicles 18. It's right above 1 Chronicles. You can turn in your phone, or you can turn in your Bible if you've got one. I'll let you guys get there for a second, and then I'm going to read what this says. But there's this story in the Bible, and there's this ruler, this king, who's King Ahab. And Ahab is this like treacherous, he's this horrible, horrible king. And God's like, he's like, man, you're like the crappiest king that could have been in place. And this dude is completely destroying the Israelites, who he is the king for. He absolutely hates people. And he's just trying to wipe people out as fast as he can. Well, he's trying to blame this other guy named Jehoshaphat. And Jehoshaphat is like, yo, I'm not the bad guy here. Like, I'm the good guy. I'm the guy that's trying to make things work. And Ahab is like, no, y'all need to kill that dude. Like, take that dude out. Like, he's the bad guy. He's the one that you don't want to be around. You don't need that dude in your life. Like, you don't need that negativity here. And Jehoshaphat's like, dude, I'm like a servant of the Lord. I'm trying to take care of things. And so there's this part in 2 Chronicles 18:33. It says, an Armenian soldier who was chasing Jehoshaphat, right? They're chasing Jehoshaphat, trying to kill Jehoshaphat. He turns and he randomly, right? So he randomly shot an arrow at the Israelite troops and hit the king of Israel between the joints of his armor. So Ahab is this king. Ahab just gets hit between the joints of his armor. Of all things, he gets hit by a randomly shot arrow, literally. So this randomness is interesting. Of all the places an arrow could have traveled, it hits a king right in the joints. I don't know if you guys know, like medieval times. I mean, some of that, the armor that they wore was insane, and the fact that he got hit between the joints in a place that would kill him, I'm assuming it would have had to been somewhere in his breastplate, like right in here, because it would have had to hit his heart. He gets shot by this arrow, and he turns and tells the people that he's on, like his soldiers and stuff, he's on a chariot, he's like, I'm badly wounded, take me back, let's get out of here. And he dies later that night. Just dies. If that random incident would have never taken place, there's no telling what else would have continued to go on throughout the Bible, throughout this rule of this king. But see, God does random things sometimes, and we don't always understand why. We don't always see the big picture. My life, I tell people, I'm a Christian hip-hop artist, so I've performed. I've traveled all over the United States and done it. I've gone to different countries and done it. I mean, I've been all kinds of places, and glory to God for that, because I couldn't do that by myself, I can assure you. But people will always ask me when I'm on a stage, are you ready? Are you ready? Like behind the stage when I'm getting ready, they're like, man, are you ready? Are you ready? Trying to get me pumped up, and I'm like, I'm never ready, just random. And they're like, what? Like, what do you mean, just random? That doesn't make sense. Like, what do you mean? Like, we're thinking, are you ready? Like, are you ready to get up here and do this thing? And I'm like, no, not really, man, because I don't know how. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say sometimes. I'm like, I get up on stage, and sometimes I freeze. And I'm like, oh, crap. Like, this is happening. Like, there's like 100 people in front of me or 1,000 people in front of me. What am I doing with my life? Like, I'm freaking out. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I'll be standing there, and I'm like, I'm never ready, though. It's just random. Because God has to do something for me to be able to move. See, God is so incredible in the way that He works and the way that He thinks. And we see things in terms of being in the physical state of what we see. And we see these things as, well, that was completely random. You know, for example, you may think a tire blowing out on your car and you having to get out and change your tire was completely random. You know, you're like, well, this is just life. But what if somebody saw you or somebody comes by to stop and says, hey, let me help you change your tire, or hey, I know this person, or hey, I own a tire business. I can help you come down the road, whatever it may be. That would seem like a completely random incident to some people. But to me, in my life, how it's been so random for the last, golly, probably like 6 or 7 years, everything has been so random. It's all a spiritual thing. Literally. Everything's a spiritual thing that happens and takes place in our lives. And what may seem random to us, what may not seem like it's going to make very much sense right now, will always come back around to make sense at some point. I mean, think about this. Think about this. Some of us are here today because we were invited by somebody, right? Like somebody invited us to come here one day. Maybe that was somebody in your family. Maybe that was a friend. Maybe that was somebody who doesn't go here anymore. I mean, and so in that moment, like, it may have seemed kind of random that, hey, they're inviting me to go to their church, but God must have something for me there because I'm here now. And so I say all this to say, my life, for example, when I started getting into ministry, I've been in church my whole life. I was raised Baptist, so I know all about eating food, tons of food. As you can tell, I've eaten a lot in my day. But no, I'm just completely kidding. If it showed, believe me, you guys would know, because it would be like, I'd be like, hey guys, how are y'all doing? Like walking like this, because my belly would be down at my knees. Unfortunately, one of my sins is gluttony, because I love food and I love eating. But I've got an incredible fiance who is helping me eat right. She's challenging me, which is great. But what I'm trying to get at is as far as, it's been a completely random life for me. And now I've got this fiance, and life is like, it seems so great, and everybody's like, oh, you're getting married? That's exciting. And then I hear like other people who are like, oh, you're getting married? That was a terrible choice. Like, what are you doing in life? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, marriage is an awesome thing. Like, I see my grandparents and my parents, and like, it's all like sunshine and rainbows, right? And then I'm completely kidding. That's sarcasm, guys. I know it's not. I'm just completely joking. But so I'm looking at this, and I'm like, this is so great. Like, I'm so excited. And now my fiance's having to learn. She's like, I really have a tough time with you, because you just like, your life is completely random. Like, nothing in my life has ever gone as planned. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And before Heather started dating me, before Heather started, we started on this path of marriage, she had a life that was pretty structured. And for the most part, when she would plan things, it would go the way she planned. And since she's been with me, God has this sense of humor of being like, well, bam, like, that ain't happening no more, homegirl. Like, sorry, you with this dude. And his life is nothing like that. And so I was telling Heather last night, I started connecting dots. And I don't know if you guys ever do this, but sometimes when things happen and they seem random, we may be frustrated in a moment because it doesn't make sense, and we're like, what the heck? Why is this happening? Or sometimes it's a good thing. Like, it's a good thing, and you're like, yo, I'm so excited that, like, I got to meet this person today because they're helping me, or they're taking me somewhere. And so it's all about the perspective of how we perceive that randomness in that moment. And what I was telling Heather last night is, it's mind-blowing to me, because as random as my life has been, I've gotten to experience God because of His randomness, or because of what I thought was random. He was like, I've still got something to do there with that. See, I met Jordan back in 2011 at the Avenue Church when we were in Social Circle, and in the theater. So I'm like one of the OGs of the Avenue Church. Most of y'all don't know that. I'm like one of the original dudes who was like there. And so I was with Jordan, and Brian Hoover reached out to me, and Brian was like, hey, you're a rapper. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you want to come rap at our church? And I'm like, I'm a white dude. I'm like, you want me to come rap at your church? I'm like, on a Sunday morning? And he's like, yeah, come on. And I'm like, Brian, I don't know you. Like, he found me on Facebook, of all places. Like, he found me on Facebook. And he said that what had happened was he had been searching for somebody or something like that, and they happened to be talking about me, and they were like, you need to go pay attention to this guy. And he had been following me for like weeks. And he said, like, all of a sudden, he's like, God just placed it on my heart to invite you to come perform at our church on a Sunday morning. Some of y'all were there probably that very first morning. Man, I was scared to death. I was like, I don't know any of these people. And I get in there and I'm like, yo, some of these folks in here are like ancient, they walk with Noah and stuff. I'm like some of these people probably rode the bus with Jesus. I'm like, yo, this is scary. Like, I'm terrified. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I get up there and I do this song. They were in the series talking about money. And I had this song called Ice or Christ. And it's like, you got money, but I got Christ. I got Jesus and you got life. The chain on your neck sure shines bright. But can your money buy you eternal life? And so I wrote that song like years before this ever happened. That was in 2008 I wrote that song. And it was like one of my biggest hit songs ever, which was insane. But Brian wanted me to come and perform it, and I performed it, and I got done, and I got off the stage, and I was shaking so bad, you guys, like, I don't know how I didn't pee on myself. I was so scared, like I was terrified. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm like, this isn't like an apostolic church. Like, I performed in an apostolic church, and the black folks were doing cartwheels up off the wall, and we were hanging from the ceiling and swinging from chandeliers, and it was getting crunk. And then I'm in here with people that aren't like that, and they're just sitting there and like, okay, just watching me, and I'm like, dude, this is the freakiest thing in my life. This is so freaking me out. Like, I'm wigged out right now. And I got done, and I get off the stage, and the service is over and everything lets out, and I kid you not, I don't know how many people that day came up to me and were like, that was awesome. I had one person, I don't even remember who it was some old dude. And I say old dude, like folks, like, he was one of them people. He was old, like, he was old. He was probably like, well, I'm not going to say age, because, you know, if I say age, then you're going to be like, hey now, what you trying to, you know. So, needless to say, he was old. He was older than anybody that's in this room, I can assure you. And he said, you know, I don't like that kind of music, but I got to let you know, what you just did was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I didn't even know stuff like that took place. And I was like, well, heck yeah. And he's like, I just want to tell you, I really enjoyed that today. And I was like, dude, this is cool. Like, you walked with Jesus and you're like appreciative of what I just did. Like, that is so bomb to me. And I was blown away because it was a random moment to me that Brian reached out to me and wanted me to come perform at a church. And I was going to Greystone at the time. There's one here in Monroe. I was going to the one in Loganville. And for years I tried to get to perform on their stage. I wanted to perform for their youth. I wanted to perform it on a Sunday morning because I was like, God bless me with this talent and I don't want to waste it. And so I would try. And one time they let me rap over there. It wasn't one of my original songs, which really bummed me out because I hate doing other people's music. And I did a song it was a Will Smith song, and it was like, Parents Just Don't Understand. And I hated it because I was like, this isn't me, it's not my music, like, this isn't what I do. And I did it one time and they never came back to me. But then that's when, like, 2 weeks later, Brian reached out to me. And it was so crazy because it was a random act that I thought, man, this is random, I'll probably never see these people again. And now here I stand as a youth pastor of a church in 2016. It's a random moment, man. It's so crazy. So that happens in 2011. And then in 2013, I had moved back to Texas. And I'm living in Texas. I came to Atlanta Fest, which is a Christian music festival in Stone Mountain. I performed in Atlanta Fest and a talent show and like a talent contest for musicians and bands and stuff. And I won my day. I won. I got to perform main stage in front of 3,000 people. But the craziness that happened from that was far more crazy than performing in front of 3,000 people. I met a guy whose name was Tommy Nernburn through his daughter. He was the youth pastor that was there. So I met them. I came up, his daughter, I was like, hey, I'm going to go hike Stone Mountain. Do you guys want to go with me like some of their youth? And she was like, well, I don't know if my dad will let me. You want to go talk to him? And I'm like, this is going to be awkward, which is another series that I'll end up doing because like I'm the most awkward human in the room. And so I was like, this is going to be really awkward. And she's like, just go ask him, please. And I was like, fine. So I walked over and I'm like, hey, Tommy. I was like, my name's Austin Wallace, and I don't know if you saw me. He's like, yeah, I saw you perform. And he's like, that was really cool. And I said, well, would you mind if I took your daughter up Stone Mountain? And I guess I could have worded that differently. And he was like, yes, I would mind. And I was like, okay. I was like, I understand. And, I was like, I was just, I'm the youth leader and back in Texas. And he's probably like, no, you look like a pedophile and a crackhead. And like, you are not any of that. And so I'm sitting there talking to him and I was like, so I just wanted to know because I want to go up Stone Mountain. And I was like, it would be awesome to take some youth kids with me and stuff. I had some of my friends there and stuff like that. But he was like, no. He's like, I don't know you like that. Like, that ain't gonna happen. So I was like, okay, no big deal. I completely understand. I wouldn't let some random strange, looking guy come up and want to take my kids up a mountain either. And so I was like, that's totally cool, man. Your daughter wanted me to come ask you. And so me and his daughter started talking for like months after that. In November of 2013, he started looking for an assistant youth pastor. So this random incident of me meeting this girl on the same day as I met her father, months later, he's looking for an assistant youth pastor. And I'm the guy they call.
Wow. Yeah.
In 2013, the day after Christmas, I moved to Stockbridge, Georgia. And I was the assistant youth pastor of Faith Baptist Church last year.
Wow.
So I leave, and I leave everything from Texas, and I go and become this youth pastor of this church, or this assistant youth pastor. Me and him were like tag team pastors, which was pretty on point. So I did this, living there in his house. I survived on $4,000 last year, y'all. $4,000. It's the least amount of money I've ever made in my entire life. $4,000. It was the hardest year of my entire life, and I don't know how I did it. The only way I know I did it is because God told me to, and He provided, and He made it happen. I never had a late bill. I never missed a bill. He took care of everything. And it was a random incident that I thought, man, this is completely random. Like, why would God do this? In 2013, I also met a guy named Alex. I just went blank on Alex's last name, which is great because he's like one of my best friends. And I do that. I even forget Heather's name sometimes, so that's great. I'm like that pretty thing over there. So I meet Alex at Atlanta Fest 2. And me and Alex have now become like super best friends. Like, we're really good friends, but he lives in Jacksonville. So it makes me wonder if maybe God has something else for me later on in Florida. That's just like a thought in my head. I'm like, I wonder if God's still doing something and He's going to allow me to move to Florida at some point. Which I want to go to Florida. I want to live in Florida. That's where my heart is because I'm a beach guy. I love the beach. But whether or not God ever takes me there, I don't really worry about that. I just think about these things because it's a random act to me. It's a random thing. But God's still doing something because if He wasn't, He wouldn't have introduced that person to me. See, He wouldn't have introduced me to Tommy if He didn't have something for me later with Tommy. Okay? The day after I did this thing at Atlanta Fest, there's a pool party. Right? So I'm going to this pool party. It's 2013. Here I go, this blonde chick invites me to this pool party at her house. And I was like, man, she's gorgeous, man. She was really pretty. And she invites me to this pool party. I go over to this pool party, and I'm like totally into her. And the only reason I went is because, I'm weird, and she was a pretty girl, and she was, a pretty girl invites you somewhere, you're like, yeah, I'm down, dude, totally. I'm single, I'm down, I'm coming to hang out with you, girl. We can go swimming. So I get over there, and then she's got like 3 of her friends over there, and there's like some other dudes there, and I'm the smallest dude there. I've got tattoos. I look like I came out of prison, And the rest of these dudes are like bodybuilders and like just like swole dudes, and I look like a skeleton, and they're all ripped, and I'm just like, golly, this is great. I stand a chance with her. Like, this is fantastic. Well, lo and behold, there sits a beautiful brunette girl, and she's there too. And I'm like, well, I can't pay attention because I have to focus on the one girl that I came for. Because that's what I do. If I find somebody that I'm attracted to, that's the only person I'm pursuing. So I went after the blonde and just kind of put everything else to the side. The whole night was the most awkward situation in the world because they kept asking me questions. Everything. I would try to change the subject and be like, so who has a cat? You know, like who's a dog person, who's a cat person? And they're like, yo, how do you know Jesus? Like, what is Jesus? They kept asking me these questions, and I'm like, can we stop talking about me? This is awkward. Like, I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about you guys. I want to talk about things that y'all are doing. But they wanted to talk about me and ask me all these questions. And lo and behold, they're asking me all this stuff, and it's just seeming so random to me. And everything goes by, everything, dwindles off, and year goes by, 2 years go by. 2014 leads into 2015, January 17th, I moved back to Dallas of 2015. Surprised my parents, didn't tell them I was moving back. They freaked out when they came home and I had all my stuff moved in. They're like, did you kill someone? I was like, no. They're like, did you rob a bank? I'm like, no, I'm just home. And they're like, okay, we'll see. Like, they're freaking out because I just left the church and didn't tell nobody. And my church knew and everything like that, so it wasn't like I left on a bad term or nothing. Just felt like God had called me to go back to Texas. So I get to Texas, 2015, I'm living in Texas, enjoying my life, and I've got a kick-butt job, I've got killer insurance. I was working for the city of Mesquite as a wastewater technician. Okay, I don't know if you guys heard me, that's a wastewater technician. I deal with people's crap, literally. Like, I fixed the city sewer lines. So I'm down in the trenches, literally in the trenches, dealing with people's poo. And I'm down there working on city sewer lines and repairing them. And I mean, it's hot, it's Texas. So if you think Georgia's hot, go to Texas for a day, you'll find out like, it's been 30s here in Texas. I called my mom 2 days ago. She was like, it's 70 degrees in February. I'm like, huh? She's like, we're already selling lawnmowers out the front door. We can't even keep a lawnmower in stock because the grass is like 12 feet tall because it's already spring here. And I'm like, man, I wish Jesus would let it happen here because I'm tired of freezing my feet off. And so I'm out there working, and one day I decide I'm on Snapchat of all things. If you guys don't know what Snapchat is, you're blessed and highly favored. If you do know what Snapchat is, I feel bad for you. But I'm on Snapchat, and I see this girl named Heather Metzger. And we've been, watching each other from a distance, stalking each other, I guess you could say, on Facebook and Twitter and stuff. And she would like things and then I would like things, and she would post something, and then I would post something not directed to her, but at her, and so she wouldn't, really take it straight on, like, oh, he's talking directly to me. I'm throwing out little clues and things. And so for 2 years that went on, in 2013 to 2015. I'm just talking to her, on the sidelines, like whatever. And then one day I'm like, hey, would you be interested in doing devotionals? That was my pickup line. I'm like, hey girl, you want to do a devotional with me, And not really, wasn't really like that. In all honesty, I was looking for somebody I could do devotionals with. Because I wanted somebody who understood God on the level that I understood God. And so I started doing these devotionals, and we started doing these devotionals. She's still living in Atlanta. I'm still living in Dallas. There was no way in the world that I ever thought that there was ever going to be anything more than just friends out of that. Little did I know, God introduced Heather to me 2 years before that at a random pool party. And I got a fiance out of it. Random, completely random incidents here. Everything in my life, as I said at the start, I'm never ready, just random. Because I don't know what God's going to do. I don't know who God's going to let me cross paths with. I don't know why He's doing what He's doing. But I know that in the randomness, in the things that we don't understand, the things that we don't see, He has something greater. So next time you come across someone that you don't know, you never know where you may see them again. You never know where you may encounter that person again. So to live as Christ is a huge thing because we don't know what could come out of that situation with that person. The reflection that we show that person, or the reflection to what we show the attention in the situation at the time, may be random. But God may have an alternative motive for that, and we don't understand it at that time. See, God designed us with our faces to face frontwards, not to look back. You know why? Because if we turn around and start focusing on what's back here, we stay back here instead of moving where He wants us to move. It's crazy. It's so crazy. The way that God made us was to live a life that was pleasing to Him and not to worry about, well, what's tomorrow going to bring? It's random. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen when we leave here. You know, I mean, it's so incredible to me that God, in random incidents, can take something and completely do something different with it. He'll introduce you to people that you never thought you would see again. And He's like, I still had something there, and you had no idea. I had no idea that in 2015, I was going to get engaged. I had no idea that in 2015, I was going to fall in love with somebody. I had no idea that 2 weeks before I'm getting ready to leave to go to Georgia, I get a phone call from a guy named Jordan Flores who says, hey, the Avenue Church is looking for a youth pastor. Would you want it? 2 weeks before I'm supposed to leave. In a completely random incident that happened in 2011. He makes me a youth pastor of a church in 2016. You talk about your mind blown. You talk about your faith being rocked. You can talk about whatever it is that you want to call it. But I can tell you right now that in the random moments, God does something way bigger when we least expect it. When we least expect it. See, in 2 Chronicles 18, 33 through 34, when they're talking about this king who was this horrible, horrible person, a randomly shot arrow that could have gone anywhere, any direction, hits the most intense person there that it could have hit. A king. A king. And if you go on to read later on, it completely dismantles that whole army. The whole army ends up falling apart. Because that king was killed. So when something random happens to you, be bad, be good, take it with a grain of salt and say, okay, God, maybe there's something else you've got for me with this. Maybe there's something else you've got in preparation for this. Because my life has never been ready, just random. Let's pray. Father God, just thank you so much for allowing us to be here today. Lord, you're so good to us. You're so faithful. Lord, just thank you for the random incidents that take place in our lives. Lord, that we may not understand or we may not see. But Lord, that in the future, you may have something come out of that. You made a promise to us out of Romans 8:28. And Father, it's so beautiful because you say that all things will work to the good of those who seek you. That's what your word says. And you promise that there's a truth in us and that there's a faithfulness towards us, Father. You promise that there's going to be things that are greater to come for us. And in our times right now, whatever the situations may be, Lord, we don't understand it. We don't see the way through it. But Lord, you are good and you are faithful and you are true. And your promises are true. You don't break your promises. You don't go against your promises. Lord, you're so good to us. Father, I just love you, and we just thank you. Lord, just continue to have your way, Lord, and just, man, you're so awesome, Father. Lord, I just thank you, and I pray this and praise you in your precious name, Jesus. Amen. All right, so this week, 6:30, if you want to come on in, you're welcome to be here. We're doing the Bible study. I know some of the guys broke off and were just doing a guys thing last week, and the women were doing a women's thing. And from what I was told and from what I heard, it was really cool the way that it was all working out. Kind of allowed the guys to get away from their women for a second, and the women to get away from their crazy men. Yeah, so it's awesome. So we encourage you guys to come here. But I love you guys. Sorry you were stuck with me today. Jordan, I hope will be back next week. And whoever finds God, see you guys.